the Valley Current.
Hey, Buck.
Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, what's life like in Laos these days?
Oh, the weather in Laos is, I have to translate from centigrade back to Fahrenheit. It's 98.
Wow. So that's like 30,
Yeah, no, it's
30,
the hot season, no kidding.
that's like 30 plus, right?
It's 35.
Oh, man, that's hot. That's hot.
Yeah.
It gets hotter?
Yeah, next week will be hotter.
Oh,
Next week
man.
will crack 100.
So what's the typical worst case? 105?
Worst case of weather?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, it's hard to say. Historically, April has always been the hottest month, but hottest month has historically meant 95, 96, and not all month long. Last year, it went over 100 and stayed there for the entire month. That has not happened this year, but it's quite unpredictable.
How hot does the
Um,
pool get?
the water gets warm.
Yeah, but you cool
The,
it?
the problem with the problem with the pool is not the water. The problem is all the kids. In other words, Tonkam's entire extended family, and he's got 7 brothers and sisters, all fecund, right? And they all come and jump in the pool all the time. And you know how dirty kids are.
Oh, brother.
Change the water like 3 or 4 times a week.
You replace the water?
Yeah,
Don't you have to pay for the water?
yeah.
Is it expensive?
I have to keep translating back and forth from dollars to GIP. It's like $100 a month
Mm.
for everything. I mean, the toilet and the kitchen and everything.
That's probably considered a very high usage.
I would suppose. I mean, not everybody has a pool after all. And we do have 8 people living on my compound. Me in one house in Tonkom and his home is in the other.
But you have full service. They give you like maid and dinner and breakfast and lunch and all the rest, right?
No, I have a cook and a housemaid to do that.
And you're doing it all for less than $3,000 a month, right?
Oh, easily.
I mean, that's
Easily.
an amazing
The cook gets 150 a month. The housemaid gets 250, and these are top salaries. I mean, that's $3,000 a year for the housemaid. That's good here.
That's not only good here. You provide the food and lodging too, right? Don't you?
I give lunch to the maid. She doesn't live here, and
Okay.
the cook takes care of her own food.
So where do these people live? They come with a bicycle, or how do they get there?
Well, most people have motorbikes, and some have cars. The maid is within walking distance.
But if you could have your way, would you exit there for a few months during this hot period, like April, May, or how?
I thought of it at one time, from say March through September, and then back here in the cool season. But no, really, I have no desire to go to the States at all. So
Right.
I stay in during hot afternoons. That's all.
Right.
And really, I think my traveling days are done. I used to do a lot with Bonnie 20 years ago, but now I can't even see getting on an airplane, really. And I'm not trying to save the environment or something. I just don't want to be bothered, frankly.
Well, airports can be really hellacious. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I've heard that. My last flight was during COVID, so not really fair to judge.
Right. Well, it's gotten worse on the security because they go through an amazing depth of ripping your bags apart if they think you have like 3 ounces worth of perfume that you shouldn't have.
By the way, the flight I did take here at that time was on Korean, and they impressed the hell out of me. They really did.
Korean Air?
Korean Air, yes. You don't have to go to Bangkok or Hanoi and mess around with their crazy visas. You can go from Incheon, Korea, straight to Vientiane, Laos. So that also saves time.
From San Francisco.
I came from San Francisco.
Right. And you did it in coach and you really liked it, right?
But all things considered, yeah. And Incheon Airport, by the way, is just spectacular. It beats any American airport.
In Korea.
Yeah.
I just want to tell this little story for a second. We flew from Doha, Qatar. I'll explain why. On Qatar Airways, pretty decent airline, pretty decent service. Well, first of all, the airport in Doha is like the most unbelievably modern airport. It's like something out of the future.
Oh, I believe it. I mean, I was amazed the first time I saw a picture of Doha, but see it once and you can be ready for anything. I can't believe how advanced it looked.
And you fly into IAD, and it feels like you're going back to the 1950s. And they bus you. They have these buses you get on, but the buses are like these military transport vehicles. They're kind of like a tank that pulls up to a window, and everyone's crowding around because they all want to get to the bathroom, and it's just a fucking disaster. Excuse my language, but I say to myself, can you imagine being a new person that's coming to the United States, maybe a new student or something, maybe totally legal, saying, you know, you're going to go from Qatar to go to some great university, you know, some great like Harvard, something on the East Coast, Yale. You've been brilliant in Qatar or somewhere in the Middle East, and you show up and you're like, this is the United States. This is like a beautiful city. This is unbelievable. They're busing us in the heat. In kind of the ugliest way, because the buses don't show up on time. People are crowding around these doors trying to, you know, squeeze through a funnel. And it's unbelievable because the first impression is there's no bathroom there, by the way. So, I mean, people must just pee their pants. And I just say to myself, and they put the wheelchairs first, right? So all these people on wheelchairs, of course, it's like, now there's like 50 wheelchairs wheeling people out of a flight, say, of 300. It's like 20% of the people are in wheelchairs. It's like only 50 and 60 wheelchairs. So the wheelchairs take up the first bus, and everyone else is like, holy shit, those people should go last. Why do they get premium service? It's
an
like
old story.
It's
150 years ago.
Unbelievable.
150 years ago, England was the crown jewel of the planet, right?
Right.
100 years later, or 100 years later, 50 years ago, it was a crap hole. I mean, face it, it's living on its past glory. And now
we're replaying that. We're replaying that, Bob. That exact thing is replaying it here in the States. The Rome is burning. The empire is over. I mean, Donald is just burying it. The empire has been on its way over.
Making it a lot worse and a lot faster than I expected. Yes. But I've been saying short America, long China for some time now.
And we have the test. Now we have the friggin' test. The ultimate test is playing out right now.
I think it's over. I really do. I don't think it's going to be close.
Well, he's accelerating the burial because when he went about criticizing Powell, who's, you know, to me, the guy makes like $220,000 a year in the toughest job on the planet because he's really running the economy, regardless of what Donald wants to do with tariffs to kill it. This guy's running interest rates. That basically sets the clock speed for the entire world economy. And, you know, he makes like $220,000 a year, and he admits he can't really afford to live in Washington, D.C. on $220,000 a year as kind of an upper middle class person. But he's using the savings from his law firm days. He's basically, you know, burning down his savings down to zero to do public service. And I got to applaud the guy because, you know, he's not an egghead. He's not like Bernanke and a bunch of others who, you know, they are used to the academic life. The guy was a high-level powerhouse lawyer who had a bent towards being an economist as well. And he's doing a pretty decent job in a tough situation where there's constantly ginormous road tax being thrown in the road to blast out the tires. And then Trump's like, I can't see this guy staying much further. I really hope he quits. I really want him to quit. He's trying to get the fucking guy to quit. Excuse me, that's not what you do to someone that's a public servant. You just don't.
Well,
Pretty upsetting.
basically, I'm now hanging on in the hope that the world doesn't fall apart in the next week or 10 days until I get my own shit straightened out. I basically blew the last 3 weeks ever since Kim left, and partly because Kim's replacement is a farm girl from a Christian college or something, and partly because I was just on my ass. But I do feel a little sense of urgency now.
Well, what's the critical factor that's playing into this? You trying to invest in some land or something?
The critical factor?
Yeah, what's driving the urgency right now?
The urgency is that I think Donald's going to throw the ship overboard while I'm fucking around.
Right, but you've got investments that are pretty safe right now. You got all this land.
Yeah,
You got all this
I was
land
hoping
that Donald can't.
I was hoping they would grow, but demand from China is weakening. But long term, I'm okay. I would like to have, or I would have liked to have had some stuff in America.
Okay.
Right. So like 3/4 here, 1/4 there would have been nice. Now I'm wondering what to do, basically.
Maybe you've been
What,
saved.
what,
Maybe you've been saved by the bell.
well, let's hope so. I had one issue with getting out of US Bank, and
Yeah.
it's that Kim was, or rather the trust department via Kim was my executor. Because it's simple enough. I mean, upon my death, just divide the assets into two, send half to one account in Laos and the other half to another account in Laos, and that's it. Okay? So she accepted that, and that's what we've been doing. With her not there and me pulling out of US Bank, I need a substitute. So my question to you is, what do you know about these two guys?
Well,
It feels weird. It feels weird to me.
I don't think that would take the role. I'm surprised she did. Usually, bank
No, I
policy.
agree with you. I mean, I think it's kind of goofy. I knew Kim for a year and a half before I asked her to be the executor, and we had kind of gotten into a jogging relationship. But now it's kind of weird.
Right, but she's technically still the executor because it's not tied to her role.
Well, the
Is it?
U.S. Bank is the executor, but I sent them a detailed list of instructions to be carried out. I did a good job on the will and trust angle, so that such that it's quite flexible, and I'm able to send a letter of instruction to the trustee come executor to be carried out. But the instructions are take my assets at USB and divide them into two. Okay, no
Okay.
assets in USB. Or die. I mean, cannot do it.
Okay, but let me just understand something. The real estate's all in Laos. You got to do a separate.
Yeah, the real estate's in Laos. I'm not worried about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just worried about the 350 in the U.S. One thing I can do is just liquidate everything and send everything to Laos, which is not what I was planning to do, because all I could do with it here, it's a U.S. dollar denominated account, and I could either find out some stock in Laos, which
No, that
has its
sounds
own
that sounds
issues,
that
or
sounds that
keep
sounds
it
risky.
or keep it in a cash account and watch the dollar depreciate. So neither is a preferred option, but probably
think-
better than nothing at all.
No, I think the better, smarter move, but the question is kind of the mechanics, is thinking about putting it into either an account with a trust company in Switzerland or an account with a trust company in Austria, or maybe Liechtenstein, some low tax jurisdiction, because I'm not sure what Laos is going to do tax-wise. Are you?
Laos will tax me on my Lao income and capital
sure?
gains
You're
at
sure there's
10%, which is reasonable enough.
You sure there's no death tax?
No,
State tax?
basically everything is going to go through my company, and Tongcom is going to be take over the shares of the company, so I don't have to worry about that. I don't know whether a will by a non-Laos citizen would be valid or not valid. This is a civil law jurisdiction, which means there's no precedent. There are no court reports. So Lao courts may have passed on the issue of can a non-Lao citizen write a valid will, or they may not have, no reports, or they may have and come out in different ways. It's really a crapshoot.
Right, but isn't the
So I
smarter?
don't want to. So I'd
Isn't this,
rather not try to do it by testament here. I'd rather do it by succession and interest in the company.
right. Well, why wouldn't the best result be along the lines of the Lao company forms an account with someone like, UBS or some major trust company in Switzerland or Austria? There's a lot of them that have been around for centuries. And everything runs through the company. So effectively, you don't even have to worry about your personal estate because you put everything in the company, and the company has a succession plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not worried about the assets here in Laos, or if I am, I'll worry about it later. Because right now I'm still focused on the fragments still in America.
In America has a funny ring to it because it's in America in your personal name, I assume, as opposed to in the name of the company, right?
Right.
Right. So theoretically, what you really want, it seems to me, is to set up a new account. Let's just say Switzerland for the sake of argument and for the sake of safety. And you get someone for some, minimal carry, like 1%, because these guys will charge 1%. And you say I'm just going to create the scenario. You say to a UBS officer or someone in Switzerland, here's my company, here's all the paperwork for my company, here's the way this works, here's the board of directors, here's the officers, this is what's going to happen upon a succession plan. And everything operates through the company. And then what happens is just a single transfer from your existing U.S. bank account to the Swiss folks. For the sake of argument, could be Austria, someplace else.
So what you're basically saying is forget about the two guys you recommended,
yes,
and start researching banks in Switzerland.
Yeah, or I can connect you to various people I know in Switzerland that are university professors in Switzerland that know people that obviously are straightforward, up and down people. They're really good people. And you could start with Switzerland. I know people in Austria because Professor Gerd Infinger at Stanford is a good friend, and we're partners in a few business activities. And in his fund, he's got like $1 billion fund that he manages in Austria. He also has a professorship at the University of Austria, and he knows everyone in Austria, and he knows all the bankers in Austria. And you could use Austria just as a second way to compare rates, because perhaps Austria is a little cheaper than Switzerland, and maybe even arguably with better service. And then there are obviously other places you can research that have to do with, privacy laws and all that jazz. There's a whole, volume of treatises on that subject. But conceptually, get rid of any attachment to these assets sitting in the U.S. for the simple reason is we're in a fucking unpredictable 4 years here of what the hell is going to happen, because they're talking about stuff, Bob, I've never even heard of before. Like, well, maybe the thing to do is we should actually look at, particularly in California, maybe we should just look at like a wealth tax. And if someone's got a net wealth of above a certain number based on worldwide assets, so imagine they value your estate in Laos is worth $10 billion because it's such valuable real estate. In Laos, all of a sudden, you got to pay 10% annual tax on your net worth on some cockamamie valuation issue. I mean, there was actually a Supreme Court case on this recently that touched on this issue of whether there's constitutional power within the states to do something like this. And you know what? The Supreme Court said, yes, there is. There's a guy who actually indirectly challenged a tax that touches on this issue. I'll find the case. You can read it. It indirectly.
Jack, I don't even pay a state tax under current law, let alone a wealth tax on my global holdings in Laos. It's just not going to happen to me.
That's current law. That's current law. What about a cockamamie view that your worldwide assets, because Laos has gone up in value and you've made some smart real estate moves, for like, a fraction of what the assessed value is today because of some cockamamie IRS agent.
Yes, I've invested $1 million, and maybe it'll be worth 3 million. It does
Maybe it'd
not
be
put
worth
me in
10.
the.
Bob, you're not thinking like a lawyer here. Maybe it'll be valued at 10 million because of some nutty expert that the IRS hires that says, "Oh, Laos is like the place to be. It's so cheap. You can live on $3,000 a month, which is less than your Social Security check, and you live like a king." So, yeah, of course, the value of real estate's gone way up. I don't know. You got to think of those crazy edge outcomes, if you ask me.
Okay. I at one time over the weekend I was thinking I really want to go fast, 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 and now I think I do not want to go fast, fast, fast. I need to think it through. One thing I
You,
can do right now is just go entirely into cash. After all, uh, I don't expect the market to be going up, right? So cash is probably a good move for right now. And in fact, I probably don't have any capital gains left thanks to the events of the last month. So maybe just go cash and hold that until I figure out the next move in the next week or two or three. Comment?
yeah. Yeah, because the dollar is going to get hit pretty hard here because of the criticism of Powell. We're just going to start
Yes.
seeing
No, I don't.
every.
I don't mean hold everything in dollars indefinitely.
No,
But
you might want to, if they could do it, you might want to put it into like yen and Swiss francs and
yeah,
I don't know
it's
whether
just hard to
British.
operate here. It really is.
Well, that's the difference, right?
No, I know it is, but it is. What about these? You sent me an email with 6 funds. Two were
Yeah, I
J.P.
mean,
Morgan funds.
yeah,
What
yeah. I
about
mean,
that?
yeah. I mean, I would say if we weren't in such muddy waters, that's probably the objective advice you would get from paying 10 or 15,000 to some planner that looks at you and says, "Oh, yeah, you've got an estate that I can make sure you get a 6% coupon paid monthly, no problem." But I don't think we're in that environment right now. I think we're in an environment where people are racing into gold, which you can do through an ETF like GLD, or they're racing into other metals. Some people think uranium is
Uh,
going to take off like a rocket. So I tell you what I did, which, it's okay. It's conservative. I put a lot of the liquid estate into 4 or 5 different metals and just divided it like, blankety blank millions into GLD, blankety blank millions into uranium, blankety blank millions into silver. And, these things vary a little bit, but they're not like crazy stock market outcomes. And, you could probably pick some stuff that's going to be doing well in the long term, but I don't think you want long term. I think you're almost at the level of, if you were in the US, you'd be looking at more like double tax-free or triple tax-free municipal bonds, right? On the view that the bonds after tax are worth
what does that
7,
get me?
8%.
Like 3%?
Well, it pays like 3%, but there's no federal tax, or 3 or 4%, but there's no
I
federal
don't pay
tax.
tax now.
Well, that's pretty good. How do you
Yeah,
make that
no.
happen? You have expenses there then,
Charitable
right?
deductions. My income is SSI,
Yeah.
and whatever dividends the fragments of my American holdings give me, and I am spending 25,000 a year on charity. There's nothing left.
Yeah, but they recognize the charitable stuff because it's run through a 501c3 that
Yeah, yeah,
operates
yeah.
that
I've been
operates
doing
in
that
a fair
since I got
fashion,
here.
right?
Yeah.
So the 501c3 is basically handling all the initiatives that you want to do in Laos, right?
Basically, I have 2 donations a year. One in the first quarter, the other in the third quarter. Totals 25,000. I send 2 checks, or have been sending 2 checks from U.S. Bank to the 501c3, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, so that's all in DC is the 501c3, or where's the 501c3 located?
Physically located in Iowa, of all places.
Okay, but it's got good track record and you trust it and they do the right thing, right?
There's been no hassle. I don't expect there to be one. It's basically exists to funnel charitable donations to Laos, so it knows the score here, which is
Yeah.
important because the last bunch I was working with did not know the score here and kept Does the university in Laos really qualify for charitable?
Oh,
What a
brother.
stupid fucking question. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I mean, I just didn't need the headache,
yeah.
and now I don't have it.
But these guys do it for a bunch of other people that are supporting charitable
I don't know
initiatives
how
in
many,
Laos.
but I'm certainly not their only client.
Hmm.
No.
Well, they might probably way ahead of the curve because Laos is, if you asked 1,000 people on the street, even smart people, they'd be like, Laos, I don't know. I didn't even know that that exists. Where the hell is that? Right? They'd be like wondering. I bet a
Well,
thousand people.
there must be some personal connection, historical connection between the founder of the 501c3 in Laos, obviously, because
Right,
no, it didn't just generate spontaneously.
right. So you've got a very unique situation in three respects, as I see it. Number one, you have set yourself up in a way where your retirement actually allows net income above all expenses with the lifestyle of the rich and famous. Two, you are basically able to be a philanthropist in Laos in a smart way that reduces to zero your federal tax burden. I assume you don't pay any state taxes because you're not living in the United States. You don't really have any state residence, so there's
I
no
wouldn't
state.
anyway. I don't have that kind of money.
Right. So that's two. And then three, there's probably going to be surplus, and you've been smart enough to set up an entity that I assume is a corporation or LLC in Laos called Laos Strategic. Is that it?
What my company name? You
Yeah.
named it, so you should know. Yeah.
Yeah, I got the logo for it, and I've got a potential website idea for it, but I didn't know if you even wanted to have a website. Maybe you don't even want people to bother you because they'd probably be like, "Oh yeah, I want to invest in Laos. How do I do it?" And they'd be asking you a million questions and driving you crazy.
Actually, there is an American who is trying to do exactly that now,
Yeah.
and she wants, and so yes, there are some ropes that have to be learned. I'm more relying. I have two employees. Tongkam does operations, and a guy called Kamseng who lives in the capital city does compliance. And compliance for my itsy little company is really like a half-time job. It's crazy. But without him, I'd be lost. But you have to have that.
Right. I mean, I imagine there's a lot of physical paperwork because they like working with paper money. They like working with pieces of paper.
Yes.
They like having
Yeah.
stamps. They like having old time stamps on things. They like paying a filing fee, right? I mean,
Well,
because I do think one of the reasons Americans are getting savvy to international real estate is they kind of view it as like the safest thing in the world in an oddball way, which is no plaintiff's personal injury lawyer, if you get into some accident and don't have enough insurance, is going to figure out that, oh, well, you've got some assets in Laos and we're going to try to foreclose against those assets, which can't possibly be
yeah, no.
foreclosed. It can't be
But for,
possibly be
but
foreclosed against because it's in an entity that is separate from you individually, and that entity probably has other partners that are local to Laos that aren't going to allow that to happen. That's the basis of an asset protection plan.
it's not so bad that the government is now going to start collecting 10% on the real amount and not 10% on the phony amount.
Yeah,
Okay? Because the
yeah.
real amount is still like 1/5 of what you would pay in America or 1/10. I've got a
Oh,
Riverside estate that I bought for $250,000.
right, right. Well, I tell you, the thing that you have to be aware of is, as Trump alienates foreign countries,
Yes.
we're going to see retaliation along the lines of, okay, that's fine. We have something new. We don't call it a tariff. We call it a special tax on wealthy individuals that have real estate interests in our jurisdiction, Mexico, Canada, wherever. And now we have a special tax annually that has to be paid by those quote unquote investors, whatever they are, land banking. And all of a sudden, you're filling out a bunch of forms and having to pay a special tax in a jurisdiction because he decided to punch the nose of Canada and punch the nose of Mexico, although it looks like he's more accommodating these days to Mexico than he is to Canada, but he's totally alienated the Canadians. The Canadians are completely pissed at America. They're like,
Oh,
"Are
I
you?"
wouldn't be a bit surprised if that were not absolutely true. What the hell is this coming from?
It's coming from this.
why is America suddenly having a major problem with Canada of all places? It's
Right. That was a
insane.
big mistake. He should have said something like North America is a free trade zone, and we're going to do like the equivalent of everything that we can get that we can't get from China, we can get from North America, whether North.
Can't do that. He can't do his main claim to fame is that NAFTA ruined the American working class and all of the poor slobs in Ohio are out of work because of NAFTA and yada yada. So setting up a super NAFTA would not exactly adhere to the program.
Well, he did that though, Bob. That's what he did. Effectively, he rewrote NAFTA to create whatever the new name is for the North America Free Trade Agreement, and he, slightly tweaked a bunch of provisions and declared a victory and moved on. And now he's kind of declared war again. It's just friggin' stupid. He should have just protected. Should have just protected the entire continent, north, maybe even south too, frankly. I don't know. It would have been an interesting question saying this is like the Americas are separate from the rest of the world. I don't know. I mean, South America is probably going to go to Russia and to the Chinese, and Africa is probably going to go to the Chinese, right? That's your prediction, isn't it? Eventually.
I wasn't focused on Africa. I was focused on the fact that China is going to undersell American manufacturers in every single market in the world
Yeah.
that's not inside the American tariff wall.
Yep.
Duh. I mean, come on. He's
Yeah.
protecting a market of 300 million people and throwing away 7 billion.
Yep. Yep. I mean, the interesting part is a lot of people have pity on people like Tesla and Musk on the view that Chinese are not going to buy Teslas. Tesla's got a factory in China. They don't have tariffs. They're going to sell Chinese. The Chinese are going to buy more
Of
Teslas.
course.
They're going to make more Teslas in China, and the money's
Of
going to
course.
stay in China. The money's going to stay in China. It's like the funniest thing in the world, this tariff stuff. Everyone's like, oh, Musk is getting punched in the nose by Trump. He's not getting punched in the nose by Trump. He was smart enough to set up a local factory. He's going to do the same thing in Canada and do the same thing in Mexico. I mean, in that respect, he's pretty savvy. I mean, he's not so savvy on other things, but he's pretty savvy about putting factories in local jurisdictions and getting them built pretty quickly relative to how he's competing against Ford. I mean, basically, he's got a company that's worth more than Ford, GM, and Stellantis, which used to be Chrysler, all put together. It's amazing. And he makes like 1/10 the number of cars. Unbelievable.
Well, I'm expecting the Lao economy to be right now. It's mainly Hyundai and Toyota. I'm expecting to be all Chinese within 3 or 4 years.
Oh, you're going to see a $10,000 or less EV that works like a charm. It's happening. There's no question about it. It's absolutely happening. There's absolutely no question about it. You're effectively leaving your estate, I think, to the family that's adopted you, right? And some of it to the university. Is that what's really happening in the big picture? Because you're not leaving it to any kids or grandkids or your ex-wife or your, let me think of who else is there. Your sister, right?
No, well, as I say, Tongkam and his family will take over the stock holdings in LSD. And I also want to set up Kamseng, who's been very helpful, but I haven't figured out quite how yet. And I bought a piece of property for the cook, and I want to do something nice for the maid. So like that. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah. Does the maid and the cook all know that?
Well, the cook does, of course. Mm-hmm. I haven't discussed it with the maid yet, but I will.
Nice.
I don't even think she has a bank account, frankly. Everything we do is cash, so we'll have to set something up. I want to find out if I can have such a thing as a joint account with writer survivorship. That would be the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, or sometimes it's called payable on death account.
I just don't know if they do it here.
Yeah,
but I can find out.
You'd have to spend some time with a banker that's there. I mean, what's happening to the currencies? The currency pegged to the dollar, or what is it pegged to? The Lao currency.
When
Mhm.
I first came here, like 20 years ago, it was 10,000 to the dollar. When I came back before COVID, it was 20. It went as low as 25, but now it's recovering and the dollar is sinking, so it's back to about 21 at this point.
And otherwise stable.
It's I wouldn't say stable in the sense that I know what it'll be 5 months or 6 months from now, but it's not wildly gyrating. No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's a good deal. It is.
I think you've set something up that's probably like 1 in 300 million people in the U.S. has ever even thought of. I can't even imagine you have an expat buddy.
I came here with Bonnie. We were looking for. She had just gotten her certificate in objects conservation for a museum, and we were looking for a nice museum in Asia. And I just fell in love with the place as soon as I saw it. July 1998, and the ties
Right.
have been deepening ever since.
Right. And that's the name of it is Pul Yang. What's the name of it again? Long Prabang. Yeah, Long Prabang.
Long, yeah.
Luangpang.
Pabang.
Yeah, it's hard to pronounce. It's really hard to pronounce.
Luang Prabang. But the problem is it's spelled as if there was an R, Prabang, but there's no R in Lao anymore. So it's spoken Luang Prabang, but it's spelled Luang Prabang.
Right.
So if you ever want to look it up on Google, Luang Prabang.
And it's pretty safe, right? There's really no crime to
Oh,
speak of,
totally.
right?
Totally. I was surprised that almost every house that's not a shack has a big iron gate in front. So I assume that there is some thieving,
Yeah.
but burglary. I've never heard of a crime against the person, not
Right.
anywhere.
Right.
And as for here, we have our little camera, checking things out. We have a big gate that closes in the front. I suppose you could attack us from the river if anybody, but then what? I mean, you attack from the river, you climb the big hill, and then you have to carry my TV back down the hill. I don't think so.
No, presumably you'd have a truck waiting and you'd open up the gate.
Yeah, well, how?
Yeah.
You open up the gate by electronic controls.
Yeah, I got it. That's interesting. But
Yeah.
you have to do everything in cash. So you must have a safe or something that you keep a store or a
Yeah.
hiding place or something. I won't ask you where, but conceptually you got to actually leave instructions.
But yes,
Definitely.
I have a strong box, but I have no more than 2 or 3 thousand in cash at any one time.
You
There
have
is
to
a
leave
bank after all.
You have to leave instructions to your partner to tell him where that box is. Right?
Oh, he knows.
But you sound like when you get to 110, you're gonna basically get buried in that location. Period. Full stop. Right?
Yeah, no, I'll be cremated, not buried. But yeah,
Is that what they do? They do cremation there generally. Is that a religious thing?
Yeah.
Because the religion is mainly what? It's mainly Buddhist monks, right?
Buddhist.
Buddhist, right?
Yes,
Buddhist, and there's
yes,
a lot of monks that live there, and you've been supporting them for a while. I
yes.
know.
I was amazed when I saw how much of the male adult population is not economically active at all.
Right.
It's a huge tax on the economy. I would guess 15 to 20% of the workforce is not working because they're in monasteries.
Well, it's like the U.S. If you watch Bill Maher, he did a show. I'll send you the link. It's very funny. He said Trump wants all these factories to get recreated in the U.S. Who's going to work in them? All the Gen Z people are like, man, I want to play video games. Leave me alone. It's funny. I'll send you the link, Bob. You should watch it. It really is accurate. It's really funny. By the way, he met Trump over dinner at the White House a couple of weeks ago, and he gave a report card on it. I'll send you the link for this. He said Trump is actually a pretty gracious dinner host, and he had a really interesting conversation with him, which he said was not a MAGA-like conversation. So he thinks it's like Dr. Jekyll And Mr. Hyde, the way this guy operates is in public is quite different than the way he operates privately. You have to watch both. It's really very telling. It's really very interesting.
Were you surprised to hear that?
I was surprised. I thought he was going to yell at Maher saying you're an asshole and I hate you. You know, they sued each other, or Trump sued Maher because Maher said something like Trump is really an ape and, you know, he's just dressed up like a man. And Trump sued him for defamation. And the case was thrown out on First Amendment grounds, of course. But I think Maher, you know, basically the channel, whatever channel Maher was on at that point, maybe it was HBO, maybe it was before HBO, they ended up spending like $1 million in legal fees to fight the case. And Trump wanted like $100 million. You know, Trump, of course, enjoys litigation. He's a good sport. You know, he's got like 50 or 100 cases pending at one time. I mean, I think there could be someone that puts together a case book that I would call the Trump litigation reporter. And at the end of the day, 100 years from now, there'll be people that say, you know, he did a public service. He established some real interesting guidelines to what the power of the presidency really is. He's going to push the envelope. We're going to find out what it really is and what it isn't, right to the outer limits of what the founders may have intended or may never have intended. We'll see. I mean, we'll see where that goes. They did put a stop to the.
I think there's one key issue, which is Republican control of the House, and it would not take and Senate, and it would not take much in terms of votes to flip that. And if things get really totally crazy, maybe half a dozen of them will think I'd better, you know, start swimming.
Well, that's
other
happening.
than that, I don't see any check on him at all.
Well, that's happening because they interviewed, I think CNN was smart enough to do actually a fairly objective interview of places that are very pro-Trump, of normal people that voted for him. And I'm thinking, you know, these are people like my mom and dad, old-time people that were like, we needed change. What Biden was doing was crazy. Obama was doing was crazy. This whole woke movement was crazy. This gender movement.
I have to say, I thought Biden had stunk up the Democratic brand for a decade at least, and it really took Trump to take the stink off.
Right.
I thought the Democrats would be dead for a decade at least,
right.
But Trump shows yet there's worse.
The interviews, which were pretty conservative people, Bob, these were really conservative people. The interviews were like, yeah, but, you know, I voted for him because I thought prices would go down, but man, prices keep going up. And I have to tell you, he's not met my expectations. I thought we were going to get, you know, Main Street was going to be protected. I didn't think it was about the rich and famous. I thought we were going to be taken care of. I voted for him because I thought the price of eggs was going to go down, and I thought the price of gas was going down, and I thought this, and I thought that. And I'm not seeing my dollar go very far, and I don't know what's going to happen this Christmas. And I have to tell you, that CNN.
I thought on January 6th that he was finito. Right. And right. McCarthy thought he was finito, and Mitch McConnell thought he was finito, and they must have heard from their constituents, no, you're not going to dump on Trump. Yep. But if constituents start running the other way, then it's a different game.
Exactly. Yep. So it'll be interesting. I mean, we're in the D.C. area for some meetings with some really wealthy people. I mean, super wealthy. These are like certified billionaires, and they're Trumpers. They are total Trumpers. And we're going to get a pulse of what they think, because I think they are really worried that the dollar is going to go to the toilet, and the rest of the world's going to be like, we don't want to do business with you. Fuck you. Goodbye. And they're going to have a different attitude. We'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens. We'll see. I mean, soybean.
I've been hanging on to my status quo on the theory that this has got to stop. And so far, I've been wrong.
Yeah.
So, and I hope I'm right before my 300,000 becomes 100,000.
Yeah, you'll be okay, Bob. I don't think you have to worry about that. I think, you know, you should probably negotiate with your partner that you could take some debt against your share of the property if he decides to run the place in Airbnb.
I'm not worried about the Lao half at all. I'm really not.
No, but
but
you
I
can
would
get
like the American assets not to be totally dissipated. And
right,
that's
but
my
you.
only real concern.
I'm
As
saying,
for right now, I'm going to talk to US Bank tomorrow and explore the idea of going all cash,
yeah.
because that would simplify and solve a number of problems. And once that's done, let's say a week from now, I can start thinking about the next move. So that's
All right.
about where I stand now.
All right. Well, take care, Bob. You sound great.
Yeah, I'm sorry to keep you because I know you're busy, but
No
we'll
problem.
talk soon.
Absolutely. Take care. Bye bye.
Okay, you too. Bye bye.
Tune in next time on The Valley Current.